Hey guys, and today I'm going to run you through an artificial intelligence email inbox manager that watches for incoming emails and automatically labels those emails based off of specific criteria that you give it. And it does this all while justifying or reasoning why it has chosen those specific labels using a relatively new n8n tool, which is the no-code builder that we're going to be building out this AI agent or email AI inbox manager that we're going to be building out today. So if that sounds like something you'll be interested in, then be sure to stick around. So real quick, I'm going to run you guys through a demo. I've set up this relatively new SavvyFlow account, go savvyflow.com, and then I've set up three example labels. So I've got general, Gumroad notifications, and respond to. Respond to label being emails that are worthwhile me responding to. So what I'm going to do is send an email to myself. This is a Gumroad notification. Gumroad notification. So you can imagine how the automation should put this uh, email into the Gumroad notifications label. So we're going to send this. And then I haven't turned the automation on, so I'm going to run this. It's received that email. It's now thought and justified the reason why it chose the specific label it chose. And it's also marked the email as read. So you can see there, it's labeled it as Gumroad notifications, which is exactly what we expected, and also marked the email as read, which is perfect. So now we're going to build this exact workflow out. It's a relatively simple workflow, but definitely worth it. I personally use it, and it's very good just with organizing your Gmail inbox, especially if there's a lot of emails coming in. So first off, what we're going to want to do is you'll want to create an n8n account if you haven't already, n8n.io, and you have to sign up, create an account. You can self-host or cloud host. Some people like to self-host. I cloud host. It's just easier. And then once you've created an account, you want to create a workflow and then add a first step. This first step is going to be a Gmail trigger on message received. Then what you want to do is create an account if you haven't already. You just go create new credential, sign in with your Google account. It's that simple, and then you'll be connected. But I already created an account, so I'm just going to select the one I want. And then I'm going to uncheck simplify output. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to test this trigger to make sure everything is connected and as expected. So I'm going to send myself an email again. Example email. This is the body. Before I send this, actually, I will send this, but there's one other thing that I need to add within this node. So if we click back on here and we go to add options or add filter, and then we're going to go read status and make sure it's unread emails only. Now it should only receive that example email that I've just sent because that's the only unread email. So we should see example. If we filter through all this data, the text here, this is the body, which is perfect, and the subject. These are the two main data points that we want when feeding this data into AI to label the email. And then what we're going to do is add another Gmail node. So if we search in Gmail and then search in within the Gmail section read and mark a message as read. Then what we need is the message ID. So if we look into the dynamic variables fetched from the last trigger, we can see its ID section here, and all you need to do is drag and drop that into the ID field here. Select the correct Gmail account as well. And there we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head back into the Gmail trigger node and pin this message. What this does is it just basically allows me to reuse this data here that you're looking at here over and over and over again without me having to continuously use different data. This is helpful when testing, so you can just reuse the same data over and over and over again, because then you could imagine I would have to send emails through to this account every time I wanted to test this workflow, which would just slow things down. So we're going to run this. It marks the message as read. We can double check that. This is now marked as read. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to head straight into an OpenAI or Chatgpt node. So we can search an OpenAI, and then we're looking for messenger model under text actions here. And then you want to create an OpenAI account. You'll need to create an OpenAI API key. If you haven't already, there's many tutorials around on YouTube on how to do that. But you basically just go to OpenAI API, and then you'll need to click on here, sign up, and you'll be able to create your first API key. I've already created an account, so I'm just going to select this one. Then I'm going to choose a model. I'm going to use Fora. And then the prompt, I already have a prompt, which is right here. I'm going to paste this in. You guys will have access to this entire prompt within the description and the entire workflow, so you guys can just copy and paste this. And then I'm going to add another message and make this system and say you are a helpful, intelligent, right? No. Email in inbox assistant. So for those of you who don't know, the difference between a user and system prompt is that a user prompt is basically a type of prompts that you would normally type into ChatGPT when you go to ChatGPT itself and type in and start chatting with it. That is what a user prompt is. A system prompt is basically telling ChatGPT or OpenAI what it should identify as. So in this case, I want it to identify as a helpful, intelligent email inbox assistant. And then there's also a third prompt, assistant. I'm not going to use that in this case because it's a relatively simple task that I want it to do. But assistant is, you can use that when you want to provide examples of the type of output that you want to see ChatGPT output. But for this case, we're just using a user and system role. Now, what I'm going to do is under this tool section here, for the reasoning or justification, so that we can make ChatGPT kind of second guess why it's chosen that specific label it has, we're going to add a new tool here and then search and think. And then what I'm going to do is adjust the think tools to description to say, I'm going to delete just this last line. Use this to justify why you have chosen the label you have and make sure it is indeed the most relevant and accurate relevant and accurate label you could put the email under. So then in this case, this OpenAI artificial intelligence node is going to come to this think tool and use this think tool every time it's chosen a label just to justify basically itself as to why it's chosen that label. So now what we can do is we can actually test this. So I'm going to send through another example email to myself, Seb. I'm going to say this is a test. This is a test body. So this should put it under general. Because me personally, if I saw this email, I wouldn't really want to respond to this, nor should it go on the Gumroad notifications. So let's send that. Now I'm going to unpin this data just to make sure it works. Didn't use the reason tool there. Yes. Okay, there's one thing we need to do, and I forgot to do. So what we need to do is if you click the plus here and just click search in another Gmail, and then we're going to search in label, get label info. Then under operation, select get many, and then return all. And then select the correct email account. Command S to save on Mac. Then I'm going to detach this connection and detach that connection and drag and drop here to here, as this is just temporary. So what I'm doing now is I want to get the label ID. So the label ID for each label within Gmail in this case, each of these labels has a unique ID assigned to it, and we want to get those unique IDs in order to place an email within those labels in Gmail and through n8n through an automation. So what we need to do is we need to get all of the email IDs. So I'm just going to I'm going to pin this data just so I don't have to send another email. Run this. And then what we're looking for under name is these three labels: general, Gumroad notifications, and respond to. So none of these are them. So we can go to the second page down here. And we can see respond to here, general and Gumroad notifications. And then under ID, we can see here's the label IDs. Your output interface might look like this. Under schema, you just have to switch from schema. There's also JSON and table. I'm doing table. It seems the most friendly to me. So then what I want to do is I want to copy. For the start, I'm going to copy the respond to label ID. And then I need to put this label ID within the Chatgpt prompt. So if I scroll down here, you can see here, I've said label ID goes here. So we want the respond to. Label ID goes here. And then also right at the bottom of the prompt, I've said under the rules section, if you choose respond to, output the label ID, which is here. And now I want to do this with each of the labels. So if I go to the second page, we've got the general, copy the label ID, go onto the Chatgpt prompt, general label ID goes here, paste that in there, go to the bottom, general label ID goes here, and second page again, finally Gumroad notifications, copy this label ID, go onto the Chatgpt prompt, Gumroad notifications, label ID goes here, label ID goes here for the Gumroad notifications, paste that in there. And there we go. So what I've said within this prompt, you're a professional email inbox manager for my inbox. Your job is to select the most relevant label to assign an email to from one of the three labels clearly defined below. Gumroad notifications, respond to, general. Those are three labels, and then I've provided a brief description of each label and when ChatGPT should select that label for an email. So Gumroad notifications for emails that have come from Gumroad, the tool, that's it. Respond to, these are emails that would be worthwhile me actually taking a look at and responding to. And then I've written in a note saying that this excludes people selling me stuff. Do not put emails in here of people selling me stuff. And then general is any other email that does not meet the requirements of the other two labels above. And then also what we need to do is insert the subject and the body of the email. So what we can do, now that we have all the email IDs we need, your guys' emails IDs might be different. You might have to add more or less labels to this ChatGPT prompt, adjust it how you need. So what I'm going to do is move this down here. I'm going to rename this to get label IDs. Command S to save. Then I'm going to run this. It's going to have an empty output, I believe. This is taking a while. It probably took a while because I didn't provide the subject or label yet. So if we go down here, subject, and then we need to drag and drop the dynamic variable from the Gmail trigger node. So we're looking for text here. Text is the body, and the subject is the subject. And that looks like it should be everything. So now we can test it. It should use the think node again, or think tool. There we go. It should use the think tool, and it should be in general. Label ID. Instead of looking what label ID this is, I'm actually going to look into this think tool, because then it's telling itself why it's choosing the label it chose. The email subject, this is a test, and body, this is a test body. Don't provide an indication that it's from a Gumroad or something else that requires a response. Since it doesn't meet the criteria for Gumroad notifications or respond to, it should be under the Gmail general category. So that's perfect. You can see there, it's reasoning. It's asking itself, why am I choosing this? It's making itself justify and look back on its answer, which is really cool. And now what we want to do is the last thing is to label the message. So if we head into another Gmail node, we can search and label again, and then add a label to a message. Add label to message. Select the Gmail account, add label, message ID is that message from the start. So I'm going to go to the Gmail trigger, drag and drop this message ID into here. And then the label ID, I'm going to change this to an expression. I'm going to delete all of this, head up and drop down the Chatgpt or OpenAI node, and then filter and look through the content, and then drag and drop that into the label ID. If I zoom out there, Command S to save. I'm going to run through this whole process again. So currently this doesn't have a label, so it should move it to the general label. So let's run this. It's running through AI now. It's reasoned. You can see this reasoning again, all this reasoning. You can look through that for yourself. If we reload this page, it's filtered this into the general label, which is perfect. We can go into this label. We can see here, this is the test body, this is a test, and also the Gumroad notification from earlier. And there's the entire tool. I'm also going to unpin this right now, so I don't forget to do that later. And yeah, you can imagine how this can be very powerful and save you guys a lot of time. It certainly saves me a lot of time from filtering through all my inboxes, emails in my primary inbox and primary email. Also, one thing I've almost forgot to mention is that what I've been seeing around, and I didn't really like the idea of, is some other people would use this method of kind of creating labels for emails, is they would use a text, what was it called? A text classifier node. And this is essentially the same thing, where it will label each Gmail message or email that comes in, and then you would add the model. You can do the same thing, add ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to power this. But then within the text classifier node, you would add the subject here, just like we did in the ChatGPT prompt, and then the body. And then under categories, you would label, like, what are we Gumroad, notifications, and then you'll justify and kind of tell AI when you'll use this. So when a Gumroad email comes in, and then what does it respond to? So this is just labeling the different categories, and then what's the last one? It was general. When emails don't fit the criteria of above. So I'm not going to go through this all, but you can imagine how this is the exact same, just in a bit of a different format as the ChatGPT node here. If we go into here, we can see where we've got Gumroad notifications, And this little justification here, or a description for when AI should choose this specific label, would go into Gumroad notifications here, and then you can paste it in there. But the reason I don't like this is because you can see here, for each label, it outputs or inserts a separate path. So then what you have to do is you would have to label it. If you go to Gmail node, label, add label to message, select the Gmail account, add the message ID, and then you have to do this for each label. Drag and drop. You can imagine if you've quite a few labels, then it can become pretty tedious. It can take quite a long time. Like if, in this case, we only have 3, but you can imagine if you have a whole bunch of labels, if we add all these, then it can very quickly become pretty cluttered. So this is the reason I don't really like this, because then this list would become super long with just a whole bunch of Gmail nodes. Whereas with this version, not this version, but this version, it will always stay this size. All you have to do to add a new label is get the label ID using this node, and then paste the label ID into the Chatgpt prompt. Add a new label here. So say you added a new label, you'll just go for, and maybe you want a label for, I don't know, Instagram. And then you would add the label ID here, label ID, and then you would add another one down here for Instagram, and then justify when you would use Instagram, use this label when a notification comes in from Instagram, something like that. And finally, down the bottom under rules, if you choose Instagram, output, and then the label ID, etc. So you can just do everything within this node, this ChatGPT node, and add as many labels as you want to the prompts. We've got the think tool here, and it's much more tidy and much more simple to look at within n8n as opposed to the other method using the text classifier node, which is why I like this version better, because no matter how many labels you add or have within your email account, you just add the label into this prompt here, so it's very simple. And yeah, so that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This email inbox manager has certainly helped me save a lot of time and hassle filtering through emails. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video and looking forward to the next one.